What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about what's going on with the market for tomorrow, why tomorrow is going to be an absolutely massive day. I'm going to break down what's going on with the debt ceiling as we have a very important meeting tomorrow that will dictate how the whole market moves. I'm going to talk about why this is going to be very important and why you have to be very cautious for tomorrow. Before I break anything down about all of this information, though, before I get into any more details, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, whether it's $1 or $100, it's up to you. You are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. I'm sorry, $3,000, and any could be a free Tesla share, a free Neo share, or a mix of all of them. The offer ends in just 2 weeks, so check it out before they run out. Don't forget, you could just put in any amount of money to get those 12 free stocks. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So when it comes to the markets, guys, things are continuing to get tighter. I was anticipating a bounce for the markets, followed by a possible end of the day sell-off, but I was expecting a green close, at least as of right now. And that is what happened for today. We did get the bounce on SPY and also for the QQQ. I thought Tesla would try to bounce too. It did make attempts in the morning, but then Tesla ended up failing, so it was actually relatively weaker than expected. And now the real question is, how is the market going to move from here? So now that the divergence did start to play out and we saw the market push up, we are actually getting stopped at resistance on SPY. The same thing happened on the SPX and the NASDAQ. So we have this resistance zone. You can draw out all the lines to connect them. And this is where the market got stopped out. And that's very close to where the 413s were. And then it's going to be close to about 413 in the morning, going into the higher 412s tomorrow, which is where resistance is going to be. For support, right here, we have about 410.7 going into about the 411, or very close to it. And we're just continuing to get tighter. Now, these are very important levels because if we break in either direction, we could make a big move for that direction. But what do I see happening for a more medium term, right? And I'm still holding my foot down. I'm still seeing more downside for the more medium term. I do believe the market has downside that's coming most likely, and I don't think that the whole debt ceiling fiasco is going to be taken care of quickly. I think there are going to be a lot of negotiations, a lot of politics will get involved, and I think it's very important to note all of this. But the thing is, even though I am anticipating downside as we approach June, going into the start of June, I don't know exactly how tomorrow is going to play out. It's going to be a little bit tricky. I'm anticipating us to gap down tomorrow, and then we will make a big move depending on the catalyst, because we have something new that came out. Joe Biden was supposed to meet up with some congressional members last week, and I believe that this meeting has been delayed. So as a result, he's going to be meeting with Kevin McCarthy, and they're going to be talking about the debt ceiling, right? It's happening tomorrow. And this news just came out, I think, a couple of days ago, but it's super important to go about this and break down how this will affect the markets. Biden has to go to the G7 summit in Japan on Wednesday in the morning. So this is most likely going to start quite early on Tuesday. I don't know the exact time, unfortunately. I will look into it. But for now, be ready for this, because if something optimistic happens, we could see the market temporarily push up. That does not mean that the market's going to turn bullish forever, or even for the more medium term, because I'm still anticipating a rug pull for the medium term. But what I'm trying to say is, for tomorrow specifically, we could break to the upside if we get some good news because of this meeting. If not, we could break to the downside. And many of these sell signals I'm talking about could start to play out immediately, right? It's still a possibility. As of recent, the market has not been doing much. It's been just trading sideways and getting tighter and tighter. I still stand by what I said from before, and that is there is still downside coming. I still stand by that, of course, but that's more for the medium term, as I've been saying. I did expect a bounce, right? On Sunday, I said a bounce was coming, and we got the bounce today. And now I'm telling you, whichever direction we break in, brace yourselves, because a huge move is going to come. It could start to break down now, or it could be a little bit more delayed for the downside. So with the whole debt ceiling, what tends to happen is it's very unlikely the US is going to default. That's almost never happened in history. And I think what tends to happen is this this whole situation gets delayed until the last minute. Sometimes they go a little bit overboard, a little bit like around the deadline, so they have to try to change the deadline. But most of the time, you know, it's very last minute by the time they come to some resolution. One side is going to be invoking more spending cuts, less governmental spending, and more careful ways in which the money is being managed. Whereas the other side is, heavily trying to get it to be raised because they know a default is going to be catastrophic and could lead to a more severe recession. So there are obviously two sides to it. I mean, I know I didn't like go over every single detail. I don't really want to, but when politics gets in the way, it could lead this to becoming more delayed, and it's very important to note this. All right, so now for Max Payne, SPY did close above it at 411. I told you guys that that would likely happen, but I wasn't sure how much higher it would be, maybe closer to like 412 or so. We ended up closing around 413 or very close to that. For tomorrow, we have a 411 Max Payne, but the put to call ratio is still relatively low alongside for Wednesday. Now, as far as economic data goes, we have Mester giving a speech, we have some retail sales data, then we have Bostic. In the morning, we might see the market be a little volatile because of Bostic, who tends to cause the market to drop a bit. I think Bostic spoke in the morning as well, and the market did drop today in the morning. And then what's going to happen is we have Bars speaking. The market has dropped off Bars testimonies in the past. Then we have Williams and Logan. Williams has been kind of in the middle. Logan has caused some downside, at least from what I remember. So we're basically in the middle with a little bit more hawkish speakers for tomorrow. However, I do believe that what they say will be important as they are getting us ready for Jerome Powell, but it's not going to be as impactful as this whole debt ceiling situation. If we get some optimistic news about a deal being set, that's going to be a little bit more bullish for the super short term, just for tomorrow. But even if that happens, like I said before, guys, the medium term is still not looking the best for the markets. The more medium term as we approach June, the signals are still active. We need to see a much bigger bullish catalyst and more bullish price action to invalidate the sell signals I'm still seeing. But so far, they're still valid, and we're still under that impression. But, but if no progress is made, right, and both sides are still arguing, and this whole meeting is like a nothing burger, we might see the market get a rug pull. It's also very possible, and we could see SPY get all the way back down to like this 409 level. So here's what I'm watching for. Watch support and resistance. If we break and hold above 413.5, we're going to make our way up to about 415 if we get some very good news. Just a temporary move, guys. Not saying it's going to last forever, and I still am anticipating downside later on. Regardless of that, I'm still keeping my word. But if the meeting leads to downside in the markets, you're going to be watching this like 410.7 zone. If that fails, there's 410.2, then 409 is going to come. And if it breaks below 409, I mean, it could start to fill the gap that's all the way down to 406s, and we could get a big rug pull. Now, how do I think this is going to move? I'm anticipating maybe a gap down tomorrow, and then the market might slow down similar, try to get a bounce, and then we're going to react to what happens during the meeting, which is going to happen in the morning. If we get optimistic news, market might, respond positively. If not, we could get a big rug pull. And it's going to be the same for the QQQ as well. But just so you guys know, on the bigger time frame, it's looking at the VIX and the other factors. I'm still a bigger bear for the more medium term. I just don't know exactly when the bigger rug pull is going to come. That's a little bit trickier to predict. But as you can see, I mean, we have these bearish divergences still developing on our technical signals. I could even bring up, if you look up our momentum indicators, they're telling us very similar stories as the RSI. Just important to note that the market is weakening a bit. It's continuing to weaken overall compared to before. This could change depending on the catalyst, but for now, we have to go based off what the signals are telling us, which is tomorrow, anything could happen. We could pump a little bit, we could drop, but for the medium term approaching June, there's likely more downside coming. The QQQ is looking even more bearish to me in a way because could we pump tomorrow temporarily? Sure. But look at the bigger picture. On the QQQ, it's looking a lot more bearish because we have this rising wedge that's continuing to develop. We formed a bearish divergence, and we're continuing to form a bearish divergence. Now it's in the process of forming. That does not mean it's done forming and the market's ready to crash yet, but it's very likely that we're going to get that rug pull soon. The QQQ is just, it's continuing to hold up. The rising wedge is still existent, but there's so many factors out there that will likely cause us to reverse. And I believe, like I said before, this is going to play out. If you actually look at it, there is clearly a bearish divergence that started developing like right here. We're making a lower high, but the RSI is getting very close to being even more overbought compared to those levels. So it's looking to me like, yes, we're going to react to what happens tomorrow, but the medium term is looking a lot more bearish regardless of this. I'm going to just go over a couple of tickers, by the way, guys. I want to make this video kind of short because I'm not feeling that great. I walked into my roommate who is very sick. I didn't know she was sick. We came very close. We came in close contact, and it wasn't a good thing that happened. And I'm feeling a little bit under the weather right now, but it's okay. Nothing too serious. That's why I'm going to make this video a little bit short. As far as Tesla goes, it's looking relatively weak. We have an indecision candle, and it's going to react to what happens tomorrow. If we get some good news, it's going to make its way up to 170. If it's not good, 163 is going to come. And overall, I mean, Tesla's still looking more bearish because it's getting shorted pretty hard. I believe Tesla's down to fill some of these gaps very soon. Could Tesla try to make a bounce tomorrow? Sure, but for the more like medium term, I'm more confident it's going to see downside. The chart's just looking weaker on a day-to-day basis. Tesla also has the shareholder meeting tomorrow, so it's going to react to that as well. But regardless of all of that, right? Unless we get a really bullish catalyst, whether we do or not, doesn't matter. The chart is still favoring the bears. I know it's unfortunate, but that's what I'm seeing. Coinbase looks bearish to me. I think Coinbase is going to make its way down to about 54 soon. Looking at the smaller time frames, I think there was a divergence developing the last time I checked it. I'm not really seeing a divergence, but it is very close to being an overbought territory, and there is a potential one right here that developed. So we do have a divergence right here that tells me that we might see a rug pull for Coinbase. It's likely going to come back down to 54 over the next couple of days. The dollar is down only 0.2%, but it's still holding above the 50 EMA, and it's also above 102. If the dollar keeps going, that's going to become bearish for the markets, and there are lots of signals suggesting that. If NEO turns bullish, expect 8.5. If we're bearish, 7.9 will come, or even lower. We'll see how tomorrow goes. I mean, it depends on what Joe Biden says and how they end up negotiating. As far as the VIX goes, this is also kind of green. There's a bullish divergence that has been developing on the VIX. I'm continuing to see it, and it's likely going to play out soon. The VIX is going to get a big spike in volatility. As we approach June, the market's likely going to cause that to happen. The SQQQ on the 1 hour time frame also has it doesn't really have a bullish divergence right here, but actually it had one right here. Started to play out a bit, but it's still developing one like from right here. Overall, it's technically still has it on the daily chart. This is where I think things are a little bit different. I think there's a bigger bullish divergence that has been developing on the daily chart. The RSI has been making higher lows technically. The RSI is still on the verge of making a better move. It is still technically on an uptrend compared to the downtrend right here. MACD is doing the same thing, so there's a bullish divergence that's bigger on the daily. That tells me that there is downside likely coming soon for the markets as we approach June. We also have a lot of these gaps above. Please be on the lookout. Google was looking really nice, pumped quite a bit. I mean, I really wanted to get to like 120, but it failed. Now we have this gap below. If it breaks down below 115, it's going to come all the way down back to 112. However, it's going to react to tomorrow. It is kind of overbought, so be careful with it. And finally, for Aapl, Aapl is down a little bit. I was anticipating some downside for Aapl. I told you guys that Aapl might try to bounce first, but it could end up dropping going forward. And there's this gap down here. I mean, if it breaks below 170, Apple's going to get the rug pull. It's going to come all the way down. If it fails to hold 170, it's back in the 160s. There's a good chance it's going to get closer to filling this gap. That's going to become a lot more bearish. It also formed a bearish divergence not too long ago on the daily chart. It's likely going to start downtrending over the next couple of weeks. It does not have to start tomorrow, depending on what Joe Biden does, but it's likely going to take some time. But overall, this will most likely drag down SPY and QQQ. All right, guys, last but not least, let me just bring up Nvda. Then I'm going to end the video. Where's my Nvda chart? Nvda is up a bit. I told you guys this thing might bounce and see some downside later on. Instead, it actually held up better than what I expected. So what do I see going forward for Nvda? I thought Nvda would bounce and then just try to sell off as the day went on and close very flat, if not a little red. Instead, it just kept going, kept ripping with the markets. However, I just want to note that there is a possible bearish divergence that's on the verge of developing. It's starting to develop right here. Nvidia is going to react to what happens tomorrow. If this bearish divergence remains, we're going to see this thing get rug pulled again. It is range trading, so not a whole lot is going on. It might pump a little bit more, then it could get the rug pull, but it will depend heavily on Joe Biden and the big meeting. So be on the lookout and remain calm, cool, and collected. All right, guys, so I thank you all for listening. Don't forget I have some merch for you guys around the comment section if you're interested in buying anything or finding something that suits you. Please, please, please look into it if you are interested. And don't forget about the Webull link. The offer ends in just a couple of weeks, just 2 weeks. Check it out to get your 12 free stocks. Anyways, thank you for listening. Look it to the moon. Get ready for tomorrow. I'm anticipating a big move. And regardless of what happens, I am still anticipating downside for the more medium term. All right, guys. So thank you. Mark it to the moon and peace out.